All right. So we'll start at the Mishnah, and we're up to on Yud Zayin Amud Beis. Zog the Mishnah. Kal liyois achar hashabbos. If Yom Tov comes to be after Shabbos, the issue is here. The Chachamim don't allow for a person to toivel on Shabbos or on Yom Tov. When you toivel, it looks like it has the appearance that you're fixing something, because even though there's no visible fixing, but on a spiritual level, the person was tamei and now he is fixed, he becomes toher. Or the dish was tamei and now it becomes toher. So that is a level of fixing, so to speak. And on Yom Tov and Shabbos, you're not allowed to fix something. The Chacham say, this looks like fixing. So both on Shabbos and on Yom Tov, you can't do it. But in this case, the scenario that the Mishnah gave, you can say either Shabbos or Yom Tov. But here we have 2 days. We have Shabbos, and then we have Yom Tov. And presumably on Yom Tov, he needs the dishes because whatever he's using more. Shabbos, the main preparation takes place from before Shabbos. But in this case, when Shabbos and Yom Tov, he has to remember to prepare everything he needs for Yom Tov from before Shabbos. So let's look inside. Chal lihiyos achar haShabbos, if Yom Tov falls out after Shabbos. Yom Tov is on Sunday. So when is he going to, he needs dishes to use on Yom Tov? He's cooking on Yom Tov or he's preparing food on Yom Tov. So when is he going to immerse the dishes that are tamei, or maybe the person is tamei? On Yom Tov, it is more, people are more careful, b'chlal, to be v'tahara. There's no isser for ordinary people if they're not a kohen and if they're not eating truma. There's no prohibition on being tamei. But it says on Yom Tov, people clean themselves to be Yom Tov. It's an extra honor for the Yom Tov to be prepared sort of a Yom Tov. So if Yom Tov comes out after Shabbos, so therefore Beishamai Oimrim, Beishamai say, their view is that Madbilin Hakoil Madbilin Hakoil Mufnei HaShabbos. We are to immerse all things, which is included by all. What does it mean we immerse everything? Which is dishes or people. Dishes can be tamei, and the person can be tamei. And in order to make them tahir, you have to immerse them, the dishes or the person. So matbilin as hakoil meaning all, whether it's dishes or it's human people, everything lifnei Shabbos, from before Shabbos on Friday. Zokt Rashi, matbilin as hakoil, kol hatzorich tefillah. There's no, we don't have to take all of our dishes and toil it before. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about all that require tevilah, which means they're tamei. If they're tamei, bein adam, bein kelim, whether it's a person or it's dishes, you have to do it all milifnei haShabbos. You cannot do it on Shabbos. Why would the person You can't do it on Shabbos, you can't do it on Yom Tov. You have to do it on Shabbos before Shabbos. Why would a person need to toivel himself before Shabbos, before Yom Tov? The Kaimelon Beresh Hashanah. Because we have a halacha that it's known to us. We hold like the halacha brought down in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tezayin Amud Beis. It says over there, Chayav Odom L'Tahir Es Atzmoi Beregel. A person is obligated to clean himself for the yontiv. That means that when the yontiv comes, the person should be in a state of tahara. Should be. So the person should be tohir. Again, that's an extra kedusha. That's an extra preparation for the Shabbos, for the yontiv. So therefore, it says, and he brings a verse for that. The Ksiv, there's a pasuk that says, "Ubinivlosom loy tigou." Do not touch the carcasses. The pasuk in Vayikra Aleph. Umukim lo. And the Gemara interprets that it's talking about beregel. It's talking about the yontiv. On yontiv, you should not touch the carcass. Meaning, on yontiv, you need to be tohir. Hilkoch. So therefore, since you need to be tohir for yontiv, Yad bil me'erev Shabbos. So therefore, he should immerse himself from before Shabbos, from Friday. The osur lahad bil b'Shabbos v'yontiv, because it is prohibited to immerse, to toivel something on Shabbos and yontiv. Like I said before, it's like fixing yourself or fixing the dishes, and you can't do it neither on Shabbos and yontiv, and that's why you have to do it from before Shabbos. That's the opinion of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel disagree. They said, Kelim milifnei haShabbos. Kelim you have to do from before Shabbos. But the Odom, the person, you can even do on Shabbos. Now, on Shabbos, there is no requirement to be toher. The requirement is on the Yom Tov, on the regel, what we learn out in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah. So, technically, the Gemara can say, Kelim lifnei HaShabbos, v'odom b'Yom Tov. The person needs to be clean on Yom Tov. He doesn't have to be clean on Shabbos. Why does the Gemara say the Odom b'Shabbos? Basically, according to Beis Hillel, the fixing does not apply to the human being. It doesn't seem. When you're talking about a keli, which is tomei, and you make it toher, that's considered like fixing, and that should not be done on Shabbos and Yom Tov. But the people, that's okay. But why does the Mishnah say, why does Beis Hillel say that Odom b'Shabbos? I mean, he doesn't need to. You can say Odom b'Yom Tov. So, according to Beis Shammai, we have to do everything before Shabbos and Yom Tov, not on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov. But according to Beis Hillel, the person is okay. Why did he say Shabbos? So Rashi, Beis Hillel, the kelim of Shabbos, Odom b'Shabbos. Why is he saying Odom b'Shabbos? Why not Odom b'Yom Tov, which is when he needs to be tired? So Rashi, Beis Hillel, V'ho the Nokat Shabbos. Why does he mention Odom b'Shabbos? Rebuso Ashmeinon leBeis Hillel. This is a novelty, a chiddush, according to Beis Hillel. Dafilu b'Shabbos shoru be'odom. Even on Shabbos, which is more stringent than Yom Tov, it's okay to toivel. Man, a person is okay. We don't have a problem with a person immersing themselves. So therefore, it's Adam b'Shabbos, even on Shabbos. Not a problem. That in Shabbos, Yom Tovos, of course. Ubegemara mefarish my taima de kelim asurim. So the Gemara will explain why are vessels prohibited. We're seeing that according to Beis Hillel, a person is okay even though he becomes tahir. So we don't seem to consider that to be fixing or something, and it's okay. So why, the Gemara will explain, Rashi says, so why are kelim asurim? Why should they be prohibited? Okay. The Mishnah continues, Vishovin shemashikin esamayim bikeli bikli even litara. So while one is not allowed to toivel, one is not allowed to immerse and fix a keli, but there is another way of sometimes fixing water and making water which have become tamei to make them toher. And in that way, which is called mashikim. Mashikim means kissing, basically bringing together. When you bring together water which are tamei, and you connect them to water that is mikveh water, so that they kiss each other, which means they touch each other, they connect, the tamei water become toher by means of their hashoka, their zriya, their being together with the other water, and the other water the tamei water become clean. But it's not immersing the water. You cannot immerse, as Rashi will say, food cannot be immersed. We don't find such a thing as immersing food in a mikvah to make those food toyer. There's no such a thing. But here, the water, which is tamei, can sort of be made toher through the connection with the rainwater, well water. Let's look aside. So if you so how do you do that? You have to put the tamei water into a bucket, right? And you put the water that's in the bucket, the water that you're trying to be mitayr, and you just slightly touch the water which is in the mikvah, so that they connect. The water in the bucket, which is tamei, connects, touches, makes a hashoka, makes a chibur, makes a connection to the mikvah water. Now, if you take the water and you put it into a wooden dish, then by definition, automatically, that dish would become toher too. Say if the bucket is made out of wood, and the wooden bucket has become tamei, and the water in it has become tamei, and you're trying to get the water to become toher, not by immersing them, but through hashoka, but you will inevitably also be immersing the keli now, because when you're making the hashoka, you are actually immersing the dish into the mikvah. So that's not allowed. But if you put the water in a stone bucket or a stone dish, a stone does not mekabel tuma. So when you're going to immerse that stone dish with the water that is tamei in it, that dish made out of stone isn't going to become toher because it never became tamei. A stone weir does not become tamei. The only thing over there is the water. So you can make the hashoka. B'shavin. They both agree, which means Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, even though they argue about uh, uh, about immersion, whether you can do it um, whether a person can be done on Shabbat, but everybody agrees, even the stringent, even Beis Shammai, everybody agrees that the kind of hashoka that you want to do, shemashikin asamayim, that you can connect the waters, bikli even, if you use a stoneware in a dish of stone, letaron, to clean the water. And Rashi explains. Shov in shemashikin asamayim, zokt Rashi, mi sheyesh loy mayim yofin lishtois v'nitmu, one who has drinking water. Mikveh water are not normally fit to be drink. He has good water. He has drinking water. He has drinking water. He has bottled water. V'nitmu, and they became tummy. So what does he do? Mamali mehen klieven. He fills from those tamedika water into a stone dish. V'noisnom b'mikvah mayim meluchim. He puts it in the mikvah, salted water, meaning it's not salt water, not good water, because the mikveh, if it's made out of rainwater, salty water, but the bottom line is, it's not mayim yofim, it's not good water. You put it into the mikveh, but you don't dump it in there. Ad shemashik mayim l'mayim, until he connects the water, kisses the other water. I'm not sure. The word neshik, manashik, means to kiss, but this is the connection. You connect the water to the water. Benimtsu elu ziruyim. So these turn out to be seated. They are seating them umechoborim lemei hamikvah. So these waters that you put into the stone dish, the good drinking water that became tamei, that they are sewn and connected to the mikvah water, to the salted water, he said. Ubotlu agabayu v'tori, and therefore they are become bottled by the mikvah water, and they become tar. This is a unique way to clean water that has become tamei, because you're not immersing the water. What you're doing is you're connecting it. You're hashoka. This is zriya. There is no such a thing to clean, to purify in a mikveh for any food and drink but water. The only thing that you can make not tamei is water. And Rashi cautions, it's not that you're immersing it. Elo b'toidas zeriya, you're sowing it, it's hashoka. As we say in the Gemara Psachim, in the chapter called Shah, Avoloi mat bilin. But you cannot immerse them. You can only make hashoka. So now, why do we have to give them specifically in a stone vessel and not in a wooden vessel? Zokt Rashi, b'Gemara mefarish, and the Gemara will explain. Shenei noistim noisam b'kli eitz tomei hatzorich tvilo. You shall not put them into a wooden vessel, which is tome, and it itself needs immersion. That keli needs immersion to make it toy. Don't put the water in there. Why? La shikaboy, in order to connect them. Kidei lahalis tvilo likeli agav hashakas mayim, so that you're going to make an immersion for the keli by way of making the hashak of the water. You're making hashak of the water, Zriya, but inevitably you're putting in the keli. No, don't do that. Don't try to get around it and be toivel the keli. That's what it says. Mashikin esamayim b'klevon avoloy matbilin. So can't give it into the keli over there. Lemat. Further, the Mishnah says, "Umadbili megav legav, gav legav," from step to step. That is talking about when we talk about immersion. When we talk about kodesh, if a person immerses themselves or immerses an item for a lower level of kedusha, and then he wants a higher level, there's an extra level of immersion. Basically, sometimes the keli is toher, but you want to use it. Sometimes the person is toher, but you want to raise and eat something which is more holier. Your previous mikveh doesn't count. We'll see in the Gemara. Additional steps in Tahara is okay to do on Yom Tov, on Shabbos. Umat bilin migav legav, meaning from step to step, b'Yom Tov, because there is no issue over there. And also mechabura lechabura. That would be if you were with one group and then you have to immerse yourself again because you're joining another group for the Korban Pesach. The Gemara Mefarish Rashi says, so let's wait for the Gemara. We'll see exactly what these scenarios are. Basically, when you're not really coming from Tuma to Tara, but within Tara itself, a step up, then it doesn't apply, then you can do it. Okay, that's the mission. Zog the Gemara. Okay, so the Kula Almo Mihas Kli B'Shabbos Loi. So what we see, nevertheless, that according to all opinions, a vessel on Shabbos you cannot immerse. And the Gemara says, my time. So what's the reason? Why are we not allowed to immerse a vessel on Shabbos? Omar Rabbe says, Rabbe Gezerah. Rabbe says, we worry. What is the Gezerah? Why don't we want to immerse a keli on Shabbos? What's the problem? Gemara says, gotta wait till that finishes. I'm not in my... Okay. Let's turn the page. On Yud Ches Amud Aleph. So he says the reason why we don't want you to toivel a dish on Shabbos is Shemo Yitlenu B'Yodei. If you're gonna toivel dishes on Shabbos, you might take the dish in your hand. B'Yavirenu Arba Ames B'Rishus Rabbi. And you'll transfer it 4 Amos in the public domain. So Rashi, Gemara, V'yavireno Arba Amos B'Rishus Harabim, Mimikoymai Ada Mikvah, from where you are stationed to the mikvah, if you're going to start taking dishes to the mikvah on Shabbos. Okay? So that's the reason he gives. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says to him, Yeshle boir bechatzeda. What happens if the person has a mikveh in his backyard? He doesn't have to take it to Shusarab. He has a boir bechatzeda. He has a boir in his backyard. So he's not going to come to carry it in the Shusarab. What is there to say? Meaning, what's the problem? Why can't we immerse the dishes into the mikveh on Shabbos? Amar lei. So he answered him. So this is a discussion between Rabbah and Abaye. So Rabbah answers Abaye. So what's the problem if he owns a mikvah or he has a pit in his house and there's no worry that he's going to carry it in 4 amos in the Shus Rabbah? So he says we still can't do it. Why? That we worry and we don't allow a boir, a pit, a mikvah, in the chotzer, even though there would be no carrying there, because because then if you're going to start immersing dishes, now you're doing it in your backyard, then you're going to end up going to the other mikvah and you'll carry the Rishus Rabbim. No immersion on Shabbos. That's what Rabbi suggests. Abaye asks him, but Hotilach Shabbos, Mela on Shabbos, where there is the prohibition of carrying. Okay, so you say you can't immerse, but b'Yom Tov ma'ikol l'meimer. What is there to say on Yom Tov? Why won't you allow to immerse the Keilah on Yom Tov? So why are you worried about? Let him carry it. Let him carry it. Yom Tov, you don't have to be worried. And the Gemara says, Gezeira Yom Tov Otu Shabbos. Because if we're going to start immersing dishes on Yom Tov, person will also immerse the dishes on Shabbos, and on Shabbos they might come to carry, and therefore it's not allowed.
That's like
Seems like a little stretch,
saying,
yeah. What?
That's like saying don't allow people to carry on Yom Tov ever because they may think then come to carry on Shabbos.
But the whole reason why we're allowed to carry on Shabbos is a good question. But the whole reason why we're allowed to carry on Shabbos is because you need it for food preparation, right? So we're not going to prohibit the carrying on Shabbos in general, but dishes that you should be taken care of before, we don't want you to do it. You might come to carry. That's the Morris thought now. But Bechlal, it seems like a stretch. So you can't immerse the dishes on Yom Tov because of Shabbos. On Shabbos, you can't do it because you might carry it on Shabbos. It seems like almost a stretch. Do we then decree this? Do we then worry about this? Sagt Rashi, Umi achmu rabbanon kulahai bahach takanto the tfilas kelim. Did the rabbanon then become so stringent in this institution of immersion of kelim, lemigzer hetera otu isura, that they decree a permissible act because you might come to an isur, ugezeda legezeda, one decree for another decree. You can't do it on Yom Tov because on Shabbos, and on Shabbos, sometimes we don't say gzeda legezeda. And the Gemara is going to bring evidence that we're not going to be so afraid. Just like we see in our Mishnah, the Gemara says that you could um, connect the tummy water through hashoka, but you can't put it into a dish that is going to be tovel, that is tummy, that you're not allowed to do. Why don't we make a gzera, and why don't we say, well, if we're going to allow you to do the water, then eventually you'll come to do it in a wooden keli, and you'll be toveling the keli as well. So you see, we don't stretch it that far. But didn't we learn in the Mishnah? We just learned in our Mishnah, Bishovin, and they're equal, Bisil Beshamai. Shemashikina Samayim Bikleavan Litarom Avalemad, that you can connect the water in a stone dish to make the water toher by zriya, by hashoke, but you cannot immerse the dish while you're doing that. But the im isa, if you're going to say that we stretch it, that we take in all the worries into consideration, nixer hashoka otu hadbola. Why don't we make a gezeda? Don't connect the water. Don't do hashoka, because if you're going to do hashoka, then you're going to end up doing the immersion, the whole keli immersion. But the Gemara says that's not a good question. V'tizbaro, I'm going to challenge you. What is your svara? Challenge your svara. Kushu, I'm challenging you. Is this a good question? What is the person's purpose of trying to make the hashaka? Because he has good drinking water, and he's trying to make them tired, that drinking water. So you say he might come to immerse the whole thing. He's not going to want to immerse the whole thing because he doesn't want to lose water from the salty or the water of the mikveh. If he has other good waters, why is he trying to make ashoka to make them tohir if he has drinking water? So why is he doing ashoka? He doesn't have any other water. So he wants to take the water, the little water that he has, he wants to make it tohir. So he said, the kivon, the lesle, mizer zoirbu. Since he doesn't have any other waters, he'll be careful. Mizir zoirbu, Dr. Rashi, shelo yitamu. He will be careful that they should not become tummy. Rashi is a little different than I said. Mizir zoirbu, shelo yitamu. So Bichlal, it's different than I'm saying. I said it wrong before. I said he'll be careful not to. Rashi said differently. Rashi says be careful that they don't become tummy. He has a little bit of drinking water, so he makes sure, he tries very hard for them not to become tummy. And Dr. Ashley Tapo, the kiva the zoibu. So for water to become tame is not common, and therefore something which is uncommon. The Rabbana warned Geyser, oh, so now you're going to make this water clean through Zriya, maybe you're going to come and you're also going to immerse the keli. It's an uncommon thing for water to become tummy, and therefore there is no gzera, and that's why that's okay. All right.
It's awfully complicated for a bucket of water.
You mean not to become I guess you just put it over the surface.
Yeah,
I
just
think,
pour it out and get a new bucket. Just get new water.
yeah, what?
Just pour it out and get new water.
Yeah, the water was not so easy to come by in those days, I mean, it's not like you had to go to the well and you had to get water. I mean, it wasn't not there was not always a well. I mean, water was a very commodity, a treasured commodity. It was not so available all the time. Okay, so the Gemara says he wanted to prove that we don't stretch because over here we allow to do hashoke even though we're not worried that you're going to come to immerse. And the Gemara says for water to be tame to begin with, when he doesn't have much water, this person is very careful, and therefore it's an uncommon situation, so we don't make a decree. We don't make a gzeda, but in our case, which is to go ahead and immerse on Shabbos on Yom Tov, he might come to do it on Shabbos and carry. So it's a normal case. So we would make that gzeda. That's what the Gemara is answering. So the Gemara brings another ayah. Isve. Madlin, you can draw water, madlin mayim, bidli tomei, v'hu toyer, and he becomes toyer. So, like you have in a well that you lower down, let's say, the bucket. So you bring up water in this bucket in a tamedikadli, even though the bucket itself is tamed, but when it goes down into the well, it becomes tired by itself. And that is okay. Rashi explains. Bidli tome v'hu toyer, Dr. Rashi, me'elov, on its own, just by the nature that it immersed itself inside the well, it becomes tired. So Rashi, but v'hol leitomi lemad bil keli al gav meim of the masnis in the osur. This is not comparable to the case of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that if you would put the Hamedika water into a wooden dish and you would immerse it all, so then it said that you're not allowed to do that, right? The master is the Asur. So how come over here you're allowed to bring up the water in a bucket which is tame, that you are purifying the bucket? So Rashi explains the hosam kol atzmoi leibo el, but because over there the purpose of bringing that water into the mikveh is because you want to accomplish some purity here. Bein mayim, bein keli, whether you're trying to want the water, want the keli, but you're trying to make something toyer over there. So therefore, hilkach mukha milsa the tvila. Then it is evident that you are immersing it. And Rashi says, "V'taimo de tvila asura," and the reason why immersion is asur is mishum the nira kemesakin kli, because it appears as you are fixing a vessel. Behai metzi. So over there, it's visible. Everybody sees you're trying to make the water clean. You're trying to make the water tired. And even though you're doing now the vessel, by the way, but it's no good. It's not, you can't do it. Abul hocho, but in our case, ein hakoil yedi b'shad litumen. People don't know that the bucket is tummy, but he needed to draw the water. It's not invisible. So there is no appearance of fixing a keli. You're not really fixing, but it's an appearance of not appearance. Now, I don't understand a little bit here. We were giving the whole time the reason why you can't do it is because you might carry it in the Shusarabim. And then we went on to say, but what about Yontif? And the Gemara says, well, Yontif was a Shabbos, and now the Gemara is challenging you. Why do we make such a gezerah? And the Gemara is bringing down this case to prove that it's okay. But first, Rashi questions, why is that okay? Why is it okay when it's not okay in the Mishnah to immerse? Rashi explains that here it appears clearly like you're being Misakin Keli. But I don't understand. We were talking the whole time. We didn't say the reason of Tikkun Keli. We were saying the whole time the reason is because you might carry it on a Shabbos, and this is a Gzeder. Let's go by it. Let's see. So, but if we're gonna say that you can't do it on Yonta because you might do it on Shabbos, and we're so stringent, so Nigzar Dilma Osi Ladbuli Beine. So let's make a decree and not allow you to pick up the water in the bucket because you might do it directly. You might immerse it to make it toilet. You're not going to draw any water. You're just going to, here you're allowing it because you're pulling up water. So it's not visible as if he's doing it to fix the keli. But we should prohibit it because people will say, no, because he might come to do it without it. So the Gemara's question is, if we use a gezeda, why don't we do a gezeda over there too? And why do we allow to put up the water in the bucket and we don't say that you might use the bucket itself to be toilet? And the Gemara answers Shani Hoseh that it's different in the case by the bucket over there, that mitoich shaloi hutraloi ela idei dolya, since you're only allowing him through the bucket, which means to draw up the water, you're only allowing him to put it in if he's bringing up water. Only when he's bringing up the water from there, that's the only allowance. Unlike other immersions, you don't pick up water in there, you just leave it over there. So this is something unique for this case. Zochru. So therefore, he remembers that the immersion is Asur and Yontiv, and that's why there's no Gzeru. Zochru, Shatvila, Asura B'Yontiv, that immersion is Asur and Yontiv. Okay, so the Gemara is making distinctions. Why over here, though, if we're going to start making Kalim on Yontiv, you might do it on Shabbos, and on Shabbos we have a problem, you might carry it. So the Gemara says, "Vaita Eis." We'll ask you a question from a brayso. Over there it says, "Keli shenitmo me'erev Yom Tov." You have a keli that has become tame from before Yom Tov, and as we'll see, what kind of a tumah we're talking about? Rashi says, "Keli shenitmo me'erev Yom Tov." So before Yom Tov has become tame, what kind of a tumah? And Rashi says, "Uba'av hatuma kidlakamon." We're talking about the father level of tumah, meaning the main level of tumah, as we will see later on in the Gemara, which means something has to be a real serious tumah. Then there is an issue of immersing it on Yom Tov, as opposed to if it's not the highest level of tumah, of lada tumah. Let's see we'll see in a minute. Kalish nimtamer Yom Tov ba'avatumah kitlakamon, and we're talking about an avatumah. Ein madbilin oisoi b'Yom Tov. We cannot immerse it on Yom Tov. Hoyil v'hoyil loi lahadbilo mibedyer. You should have toiveled it because it became tomei from Friday. You should have toiveled it from Friday. But what happens b'Yom Tov? If it became tomei on Yom Tov, madbilin oisa b'Yom Tov, then you could immerse on Yom Tov. Yishtamish bei hayoim chulin shein tzrichim harev shemesh. So if he's gonna toivel it on Yom Tov, what are you gonna use in that? So Rashi says you're gonna use in that keli things that are not you don't have to wait till the sun sets. If it's talking about truma, so then you won't be able to use it. You won't be able to use it on Yom Tov anyways, because you have to wait for the chulin to sun to set. So if, let's say, it became tomei on Yom Tov, and assuming that if I'm just trying to think what kind of, who's talking here about truma, what to use, how do we know, why can't he a keli that you were toivel on the daytime, you still got to wait till the sun sets. You have to wait for Harav Shemesh. So what's the purpose in immersing the keli? You anyways won't be able to put truma in that keli because you have to first wait till the sun sets after you immerse it. So why should you immerse it on Yom Tov? But it says you don't have to eat truma, you can eat chulin in there. Chulin don't need the keli to have harav shemesh. So the in order for the keli to be used for truma, the keli has to wait till sunset. And therefore, Rashi explains, but you're going to use in there, you're going to use chulin. But anyway, the Gemara asks, V'im iso, and if it's true that we do make such a big zeta, nigzer the Yom Tov otu the erev Yom Tov. So you say on Yom Tov, you're allowed to, because you didn't have a chance to do it before Yom Tov. But since you're not allowed to do it on Erev Yom Tov, if it became Tom Erev Yom Tov, you're not allowed to. Why don't we make a Gezerah? Say, if we're going to allow you to do it on Yom Tov, you may do it even if it became Tom and Erev Yom Tov. And you're still going to immerse the Keli. Why should we not make that Gezerah? It's similar that we don't stretch the Gezerah. And the Gemara answers, Tumo b'Yom Tov milsud l'shkichai. That Tuma on Yom Tov is not a common, is a something which is not common. And therefore, l'shkicha, as Rashi explained, Shara koil metadim beregel, because everybody is purifies in the regel, and certainly they are careful not to become tamei. And a matter which is not common, Rabbanu were geyser, so therefore, on Yom Tov, if it become tamei, the Rabbanu wasn't geyser. The Rabbanu not geyser.
What if he's does it? He still has to wait on Yom Tov, but the next day Shabbos, so he could use it on Shabbos.
So again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if the case is he has to wait, but maybe if he does it on Yom Tov, he's waiting, then he could use it on Shabbos.
But you wouldn't be allowed to do it on Yom Tov in order to do it for Shabbos either. Here, the question is, it doesn't want you allowed to do it because if you allow it, you might do it in Erev, that if it became Tom and Erev Yom Tov also. The Gemara just says it's not a shkich case, and therefore we don't stretch the Gezerah. But normally to say that you can't toivel it on Yom Tov because you might toivel it on Shabbos, that's not such a stretch. That's okay to make such a Gezerah. Hey, Siva, so the one asks further, Keli shenitma ba'ava tuma, if it was tuma v'vlada tuma. Okay, you know what? Let's leave it over here. And like I said, we'll mapshich next week. We'll start over here. And next week, we'll mapshich from here. I will check up on everybody about if Wednesday works. And we'll do on Wednesday, Mr. Next week. Everybody have a good evening, good night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you next week, Mr. Shem.
Thank you.
Thank you.